Kenny Wallace, Rusty Wallace's brother, Rusty started inquiring. Stephen was starting to race, Rusty's son. So Rusty had been to a few races incognito, and he'd been watching this guy named Catfish. And he said, man, that guy's a driver. That Catfish is a driver, man. That kid has got it. And so he asked Kenny, he said, do you know a Catfish Parker? And Kenny said, yeah. I said, that's Hank Parker Jr., the bass fisherman's son, Hank Parker. He said, no, this guy's name's Catfish. He said, I know, his name's Billy Parker. He goes by Catfish.
It's Hank Jr.'s little brother. That's what I went by in the racing community for a long time. That's Hank Jr.'s little brother.
Yeah. And then Rusty said, no. He said, yeah, it's Hank Jr.'s little brother.
Yep.
So tell us how you got hooked up with Rusty.
Well, they wanted to get Stephen in a race car, and they needed someone who could just kind of be a mentor, be there for him, and just be with him. Stephen wasn't old enough to drive. I mean, they needed somebody to drive the truck and the trailers and help take care of the car, just kind of oversee things. And he asked, that's kind of, I think, what spurred it, really. Yeah. And so Stephen went late model racing, and I got to say, I've seen a lot of drivers, man, but that kid could drive. I mean, he could, if you could take, and I'll just use miles per hour because not everybody goes by seconds, but if the car could go 150 miles an hour, Stephen Wallace could make it go 160. Yeah. I mean, that's just who
for a couple of laps. He would wreck it, but he could make it go fast. He was young.
He was young, and he just had to mature in his mind, not to run over people and do stuff like that. But I mean, that kid could drive and get speed out of a car. And he went short track racing at Hickory, one of the toughest short tracks there is. Yeah. And he about, I had to fight like crazy to keep him behind me. I mean, he about outran me, and it's first or second time out on this racetrack. Yeah. I mean, he was awesome, but that's kind of how it spurred, really wanting to get Stephen groomed so he could, go through the rankings and drive late models and get up at that time, I guess it was the Busch Series, wasn't it?
That's right.
Or did they changed it at that?
No, it was still the Busch Series.
Yeah. So that's kind of how that spurred.
Well, now, how many races, do you know how many races you won?
I don't know. It's funny. I was cleaning up my shop the other day, and I called Junior. I was like, what did I do with all these trophies? Yeah. And I think you said, I would count them, and then I'd probably, I don't know, put them in a box somewhere and save them for your kids. But I don't know. I mean, if we didn't race at that point, I wasn't racing every weekend because we had a budget. And so I was picking the bigger races to go run. So we didn't run a full schedule, but I think I won like 11 races that one year. I think we run like 13 races, and I won 11.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Do you know how many races you won?
I do not. I have no clue. I don't know.
I remember Homestead, Florida was a big deal for the late model and the NASCAR All Pro Series because it was televised on CBS television. Right. And so you would have, like, I remember one year,
Buddy Baker,
Jimmy Spencer, and Joe Gibbs.
That's right.
Did the race commentary one year. But we were there, and I was spotting, and you were running at Homestead, and your car was didn't have the better gear.
Yeah, transmission. I'd used our road racing transmission.
Yeah, for takeoff.
Yeah.
But you were spanking them. Yeah. And so NASCAR, they like to keep it close. They don't like when one car runs off and leaves another.
Stink up the show is what they call it.
Yeah. So I've got stinking up the show. That's exactly what they said. I've got the headset on, and I'm listening. I'm talking to Hank Jr. driving the car, and I'm listening to NASCAR if they chime in. And so they come on the radio, and you were running an 86 car. Mm-hmm. And they came on the radio, and he said, all right, 86 stinking up the show, tell him to slow it down. So I get on the radio, and I say, all right, Hank, you're going to have to slow it down. NASCAR's complaining you're running off and leaving everybody. And so I kept telling him, I said, back off.
I kept backing off, and it got faster.
He was just running off and leaving them. And NASCAR said, all right, I told you, here come the caution.
Yep. Yeah. Competition yellow is what we call it.
Competition yellow. 3 laps to go. You fell back to 5th or 6th and ended up just about a photo finish for 2nd. You came back, but your car didn't have the right gear for takeoff.
Right.
So then we go back. So that was just the most disappointing one single moment I had in NASCAR. We dominated that race. It was on CBS television. and you dominated, and they stole that race from you. NASCAR stole that race from you, and it just made me so mad. So then we go back, and you're driving Homestead.
No.
Hank Jr.'s driving?
Hank Jr.'s
Yeah,
driving.
I won it next year.
And so you go back and dominate the race.
Yep.
Well, what happened was I won the Winchester 400, which is a big race.
Huge race.
And then the next race was the All-American 400, remember?
Should have won it.
And I was leading with 10 laps to go, and a lap car wrecked me.
Yeah.
And you said, I don't know what you need to do with this race car, but we need to take this to Homestead. And I said, when we got home, I just tore it all apart, and Catfish did the body on it. And you're like, you guys are idiots. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And we went down there, and
Freddie Query came over and said, I got a few ideas. Let's start working on it.
it
And
was-
we took the body off
hold
that
on.
car.
Here's a car
That's winning.
that you dominated the race with.
Right.
NASCAR threw the caution and
Right.
stole the race, but the car is a dominant car.
Yes.
And you sat on the pole
yes.
that particular year that
Right.
you led that race. You
Right.
sat on the pole.
Yep.
And so now I go in the race shop at 10:30 at night,
And we've got it torn to pieces
4 days before the race, and you've got the whole body laying in the floor.
because we had an idea.
Freddie had an idea.
And I went nuts.
Yeah,
I
you did.
said, are you guys crazy? You took the best car we've ever had, and you have torn this. Oh, I was so upset. So when we go back to Homestead,
I was really, really fast in practice.
you qualified like
7th or 8th.
4th or 5th or somewhere.
It got windy, so I got a late draw, and the wind starts in the afternoon. I qualified, and you were like, "What are you? I can't believe you did all this." And I said, "Just wait, just wait, just trust me."
Yeah. I was so mad. I said, you sat on the pole here last year by 0.3 of a second.
But we didn't, we
And
did.
now you tore the body off the car, and you're back here 5th, 6th, whatever it was you qualified, and you're 3 or 4 tenths off of the fastest car.
Yeah.
Man, you're just crazy. Y'all did this. I was so upset. And all you'd say, just wait, Dad. Just wait, Dad. It's going to be all right.
When you put that car in traffic, it's going to come alive.
Yeah.
And that's what it did, man. It was no competition.
We won that one.
It was no competition.
Well, it was cool, and that's when I got my first opportunity to drive a Busch car too. I drove the Mark III 78 car the next day in the Busch race.
And that was a live on CBS television race for the second time. You finished second the first year, and then they dominated and won. The competition caution wouldn't hurt you because you had the right gear to take off that year.
Right.
It didn't matter.
We got a new transmission.
We got everything just right. But I guess, to kind of parlay that qualifying effort into the race, we built that car for the race traffic. Remember the year before when the car wasn't handling in dirty air and it was really all over the place and you couldn't steer it and you were pushing up the racetrack and we were like, who cares about qualifying?
We
care about the race. And that car was totally revamped and fabricated for race traffic.
Yeah, it was good.